Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow? Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the year in review. I always do a little bit of a look back on where I have grown as a person and where this podcast has grown to. I'm excited to share with you some of the things that are going to talk about today because it will help you in your journey to look back and for you to plan this next year. 2020 is a big year, ends in zero, so a lot of people put a lot more emphasis on those things, just like we do in the years of our birthdays that end in zeros. I have a big one coming up this year, which will be my 50th birthday. I don't even feel like I'm 40 yet, but I guess that's good. I feel like I look young, I feel young, and but I am putting a lot of emphasis on this year to get things the way I want them to be. I'm excited to share this episode with you about Grow Think Tank because looking back, I can really see some big changes that have been made in the podcast, but also in me personally. From a podcast standpoint, you know that we started the year interviewing pretty much anyone who had some insight, some value to help you as a leader. And that was great. I had a lot of best-selling authors on there, a lot of speakers, a lot of people that have special insight to this. But about mid-year, I really decided to double down and focus on those in the trenches, change the name to Grow Think Tank, and I only interview those founders and CEOs on the Inc5000. So hopefully you find that valuable. But when I think back about some of the things I learned through these interviews and through living life this past year, I think you can also do the same thing with your look back. So let's reflect a little bit on life. I think you can create your own categories, but if you have these, the categories that mean the most to you, you will be able to put goals, put things that you're looking for to grow inside these different categories. And so you're not, one-dimensional in the fact of having one goal, because I don't know many people who only set one goal. It sounds really, amazing. If you only had one thing, what would it be? But I think in life, there's more things than just, money, or there's more things than just family. I know that's kind of scary to say, but I do decide to put 3 big categories of goals together. And looking back at those, I'm going to share with you the good, the bad, and the ugly. When I think about my goals, I look at business first because this is a business podcast. So let's just start there. I'm looking back at, the goals I set with intention for the beginning of the year. I wanted the podcast to grow. I wanted my speaking to grow, not necessarily in numbers, the actual number of gigs, but in the amount of money that I was charging for those gigs. And so I made those big goals. I also had an income goal. Now I will tell you, I did some math a little bit earlier today where I calculated my income goal for this year, and I'm going to share with you kind of the percent increase for 2019 over 2018, because I have a very specific spreadsheet I use and it calculates all this stuff for me. So I looked at it today. I'm recording this. We've got 5 days before the end of the year, 6 days, and I'm at 42.1% over what I was for all of 2018. That's in revenue. So 42% increase, not bad. I'm pretty happy with that. I actually didn't know it was that high. I looked at different numbers and I thought it was, it was okay. But 42%, that's a pretty big jump, given where I am with this. And having a bigger jump next year is definitely part of the plan. The other number I track is, contracts booked. So I can look at revenue that's booked into the next year. So I call this next year booked increase. And it's over 97%, 97.8% to be exact. Almost double what I had from last year carrying into the new year. So that tells me my momentum's building and I'm moving forward. So I don't know what numbers you track specifically, but you get to see looking back and be honest with yourself. Where are you really, excelling against what you wanted to do? Now, I didn't hit every goal. It's kind of the way things work for me. I set some very lofty goals. I wanted to have more speeches at 10,000 plus. I did have more speeches this year, but I didn't hit my goal. So I've got to look at that goal again seriously this year to decide, what's right for me. And I will tell you about what I'm going to do with that at the end of the episode. The other things that kind of, from a business standpoint, the quality of work has increased dramatically. I know that I'm getting better results. I've got a new offer that I've been working with clients on. It's called a deep dive for 2 days, where they come to me in Atlanta, Georgia, and I have just so enjoyed delivering this, and the results have been phenomenal. I've got a few of those already booked for next year, so it really is exciting to have, quality of work is increased. Results for clients are better. I love getting results for clients. I'm actually addicted to this. I'm really bought into it. My hours worked, probably about the same. I work a lot. I really do put a lot into all of the things that go on. I'm still juggling a lot of things. The team has increased for 2019. I hope it'll increase again, but I put a lot of work into creating the content, creating the videos, creating the podcasts, servicing my clients, marketing, selling, and working with a team. Frankly, writing is getting a little bit better, a little bit easier. December is going to be the best month I've ever had on Inc. Writing, number of page views. It's just been phenomenal this month, and that is mainly due to one article that just really took off. You never can tell when those will hit, but writing's getting better. My team around that's really jamming, so that's fun. And the podcast, just love doing the interviews, love really serving you, and making building out the team for that has been awesome as well. So I do want to make the podcast better. If you haven't already heard, I'd love for your feedback. If you're listening to this, just go to genehammett.com/survey, SURVEY, and you can get in on that. We're going to give away 5 $100 kind of gift certificates or gift cards to random people that fill that out. You have to do it accurately. You have to do it, completely. But I really would love for you to be a part of the survey. Just go to genehammett.com/survey. Another area that I look back on and reflect on is family. And family is just very important to me. My wife, my son, who is almost 13, really love spending time with them, love being connected to them. We added a new dog this past year. We took in a foster. We thought it was a really good idea to give back and help these foster animals. And I knew it would probably happen, which is what did happen, which is we ended up adopting a second dog. So we have 2 dogs and a cat. And so that makes 6 of us in the family. And I know it's not your traditional family, but this is good for us. Really love spending time with them, just time with my wife, just time with my son, and then time together as a family. And I'll tell you about the big goal we have for next year coming up. The one thing that was really cool that we did this year was we went on a great vacation, took my mother, and really enjoyed doing that. One thing I didn't get, if I'm being honest with you, I wanted to be completely out of debt. I'm carrying over some tax debt from previous years from income that I made, and didn't pay off everything. We had to fill out a bunch of paperwork and whatnot, and so I'm not out of debt on that. So that's going to be a big one for 2020. The third category I look at is personally, and this means a lot to me because if you have money and you have family, but you're not taking care of yourself, then it really is, what's the point? So I have had a 10% body fat calculation on my goals list for probably more than a decade. Really has been a long time. I wish I would have known how far it goes back, because I could really use a little bit of specificity with this. But I will tell you, I didn't make it. I didn't come anywhere close to it. In fact, I'm further away than ever, just because I found out my scale was broken, and no longer am I at 19% body fat, I'm at 26%. So in one day, I just found out that I was much fatter than I really was. So looking back lets you be really honest, and having something to measure and guide that by, I think is important. You may have your own plans, but I'm just being real with you because I didn't hit that goal. I didn't commit to myself until late in the year. Now, if you've heard some recent episodes, I recently did an interview with Angelo Poli where I talked about my health plan and what has happened, and losing about 14 or 15 pounds from that has been phenomenal. And that's just over the last less than 2 months. I started November 5th. So it really is exciting to know that that's heading in the right direction and building momentum. I wanted to get a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and I didn't get it. I got my 4th stripe on my purple belt, which puts me, the very next step is brown belt. I've got to commit myself to the right training and to really improving on my own jiu-jitsu skills in order to get to that level and get to black belt eventually. And my spiritual growth, I was with a men's group this past year and really enjoyed, having these conversations with the men's group. I'm no longer with that men's group, but there's something going on inside me about spiritually that is continuing to grow, and I really do enjoy that, and I want to double down that in the next year. Now, I'm looking back at these different categories, and I wonder what your process is. I would love for you to share with me what you're doing looking back at the numbers, what categories you put in there, because maybe I could learn something from it. Maybe we can have a chat about it. I'd love to support you in something that's really important to you and your growth. I will tell you, 3 words that really stand out to me looking back at last year are these 3 words, and they mean so much to me that I wanted to share them with you. When I think about the leaders that are growing their companies and creating culture and evolving as leaders and really having the impact in the world that they're having, they really represent all 3 of these in a big way. Now, some people maybe have room for improvement like we all do, but they really do think about being proactive a lot. So that's the first one, proactive. And I think this really is an important piece to all of the work we're doing as leaders, is to be proactive. We want to be proactive in our leadership and defining the culture that we want, proactive with our goals, proactive with how we treat others, and not reactive. We spend too much time reactive. My business is completely run around the idea of being proactive. Very little of it is reactive. So that is impressive to me, and it makes it easier for us to manage the kind of growth that we've had. The second word behind this is mastery. Mastery is something I've thought about for a long time. It's one reason why I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, because it's incredibly hard. Like one of the hardest things I've ever done to stay healthy and continue evolving. And it takes the right mindset for mastery. Same thing with leadership. You've got to truly be intentional about how you're going to show up, and that journey of mastery for leadership is very important. And then finally, ownership. This is the year of ownership in 2019, because I've had so many conversations with companies about creating ownership amongst their people and what's moving forward. And that really is a big part of this. Even at a personal level, you've got to own your health. You've got to own the fact that you're not hitting your goal weight, or you're not eating the right way. And that's really important to do. Now, as we plan for what's going to happen in 2020, I'm just going to kind of throw this out there for you. I've got some really big things planned for myself, and hopefully you're doing the same thing, and you can maybe learn a little bit from how this works. But the first one is, going back to the same categories, business. I'm planning on increasing the revenue drastically. I want to increase the team. I want to create not necessarily more programs, but I want to completely fill out the programs we had. I forgot to even mention that we did the Porsche leadership event, the 2-day intensive. That was just a first time I've ever done it. I'm almost tongue-tied. I had so much fun with that. But where we raced around Porsches, and we had founders and CEOs and COOs of fast growth companies come in and have a 2-day conversation on leadership, and the evolution of that leadership was just some of the best work I've ever done. So I want to do more of that in 2020, and we're going to speak more, very intentional about where we're speaking. I'm not worried about the fees as much, although that will come, but I want to get on the right stages, and that is definitely part of the journey for 2020. And finally, the podcast, we want to improve it. We want to make sure that we're serving you. So make sure you go to the survey, genehammett.com/survey to get it right away. As far as family, we're going to go on a big trip. We had a couple of date nights about 2 months ago with my wife, and we were just discussing about what we wanted to do, and it kind of hit me. We have a 13-year-old. He's 12 now. He'll be 13 soon, but he's only got 6 more summers with us until college or till he's an adult, and so he's practically on his own. And we wanted to do something special, and we thought about it. We looked at different options. We've decided we're going to go to Italy for 1 month this year. Most likely going to be July. We haven't got the exact dates done. We haven't actually put this together because we don't know how we're going to create this. We've got a very busy schedule where teams depend on us. The clients depend on us. I do plan on working while I'm on this 1 month vacation, but I'm going to minimize that. I'm going to only do client work and only work with sales conversations that are necessary. But I'm not planning on doing podcast interviews and not planning on writing. There's a lot of stuff that I won't be doing during that period. So I say all this to you because this is a big goal for the family, and spending time with them and really traveling and exploring is really an adventure for us. So we're excited about it. Personally, 10% body fat. That's it. You heard me say it here. I'm going to finally get there. I'm going to continue what I've been doing. I'm going to take it to the next level. I'm working with some trainers and some nutritionists, and I'm going to commit being intentional about my own food and taking full ownership of that. That's a big part of where I'm going for 2020. So that's just a look back and a look forward for you. And I'm curious about what you're doing. I'm curious about how you're planning to grow. And if there's a way I can help you, and this is not a pitch for me to sell you something, but I really do want to serve you. So I would love to hear what you're doing. I'd love to have you chime back in. So I'll be sending out an email about what you're doing to prepare for 2020. I want to be a part of that. And this is, again, I'm not trying to sell you a program or anything like that. I'm just literally want to be a part of your growth. So make sure you keep tuning in here to Grow Think Tank. Make sure you keep pushing forward to your own goals, and you make sure you keep me in mind if I can help you and serve you in any way. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.